This episode of the Round 6 podcast is brought to you by Trailer Tug, the world's strongest trailer dolly. Learn more at trailertug.com. Welcome to the Round 6 podcast, a weekly roundtable discussion featuring a variety of automotive subjects, interviews, special guests, and stories. Hosted by the Round 6 Gearheads, Brian Stubsky, Alex Welsh, and Brad King. Here on episode 57, the Gearheads welcome C10 trendsetter, world-class art collector, and the first victim of the Round 6 Street Freak Lifestyle Coaching Academy, Uschenko. Welcome to the Round 6 podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Brad.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Del, a.k.a. Delmo.
There we are, man. It is a wonderful, episode 57, and we are hosting the one, the only, the beautiful, talented, I guess, I'm going to assume good-smelling Uschenko.
Yeah.
How the heck are you, man?
Dude, it's great. Life is great up here in the mountains. We moved from Burbank 3 years ago now. Best thing I ever did.
Really?
Oh, you got to miss the traffic. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I miss the arrogance and the
the high cost of fuel. I know
The gas prices,
that.
sure. I'm sure you miss that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But to be honest, I do miss some of the food.
Well, what is that? They have DoorDash. That'd be like a super long trip for some guy. He's got to try to keep your order warm as he drives up through the mountains.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, we don't have any of that technology up here.
No, I was gonna say you don't. And okay, now since you've just moved up there, I noticed earlier we were talking about it, and you haven't adopted the local pronunciation of your town.
Well, I do when it's appropriate. For example, if there's an old timer and I know he's going to give me shit, it's not worth,
They will too.
it's not worth me saying it properly, which is Prescott. I advert to saying it wrong, which is Prescott. And so I guess it depends if you want service or if you don't want service, kind of thing. As soon as you say Prescott, it's a red flag that you're from California, and they just treat you different. It's good up here. I love it.
That's awesome, man. So I'm sure this has been done over and over, but for the benefit of our listeners, why the decision to go from Southern California, which is the hotbed of hot rodding and everything you do, to go up in the mountains here in Arizona?
Bunch of different reasons. I guess if it's not known by all the listeners, I'm Canadian. So I'm from kind of a smaller city in Canada, and this town kind of mimics my hometown, and the vibe and the friendliness and the weather and all the things that kind of happen up here are real reminiscent of where I'm from. So although LA was good to us, and it, like you said, is the hotbed for what's going on and what's cool. A lot of good stuff there, but I guess I reached my limit on patience for traffic and for people and for the cost of living, and it's kind of, you just spin your wheels there a lot because it's so expensive to live there. So we just figured out an exit strategy and boned out.
Nicely done. And it's got to be easier too. I mean, if you'd have done this, say, 5 years ago, even, I think it'd be tougher without the technology. Because I mean, you've got so many good things going on with companies like AccuAir and things like that. You can kind of continue those relationships almost unbroken.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Nobody really was any wiser, none the wiser that we moved. A lot of people still think I'm there, which is fine. It's
knocking on the door.
Yeah, swing on by the shop.
Never opens a door.
Yeah. Well, my buddy Bobby Green still has the shop there, so I'm sure there's a good handful of truck guys that still swing in there. But man, I wouldn't change my time there for anything. It was we started some trends and we had a lot of fun in Burbank there, so it was awesome. It was just time to go.
Right on. And I haven't even come up to visit you yet, and I apologize. I need to take a ride up north, and if anything, just to visit, because you always had like the coolest shop, period. I mean, when you were working out of Old Crow,
Yeah.
that place was that was like a magical little environment.
It really was, man. And Bobby Green from Old Crow Speed Shop really kind of pushed my artistic ability too, not only from what I did, but to create an ambience of my own, like in my own shop, hanging cool stuff. I never really paid attention to it. Back in Canada, my hot rod shop was kind of surgical. It was real clean and stainless steel and, painted floors. Everything was, perfect. And spending time with Bobby, he's a kind of an old soul. If you spend any time, around his stuff or seen his style, so that influenced me to give my side of the shop a little bit more flavor, and makes it a little more homey. So, yeah, it's important, man. It's like you spend so much time in your shop. It's cool to step in there and feel like you're in your little man cave.
Right on, man. You had the only shop that I've ever walked into that had Star Wars toys hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, they were scattered everywhere.
Badass.
Areas that people would notice them. It was really funny.
There was one picture that I remember from one of the places when guys went to visit. You have a painting of a nature scene. I don't know.
That's right.
With the General Lee painted on it. Do you still have that?
Yeah, I do. I've been offered a lot of money for it too.
That is the coolest painting ever. Every time I'm at a yard sale, I'll be honest with you, I'm looking for one.
Oh yeah, I know. I've got a couple that I've collected since that are waiting, for the right artist to get to them that I have ideas for. But yeah, I stole that painting out of a cheap hotel in Revelstoke, British Columbia, Canada, and
Ooh, international art thievery. This is going to go
Nice.
great.
yeah. But I took it off the wall, and there was a big yellow stain where the painting was, or they painted around it. So I had to go into the hallway and take another painting that kind of covered that. Didn't quite cover it, but it almost did. And it was a great painting. It's like it's in a forest kind of with a creek going through it, and I pictured it right away with the the General Lee jumping over the creek. So I gave it to my tattoo artist and told him I wanted the General and a couple ramps, but I wanted to make it look like it was the original artist that painted it on there. So he knocked it out of the park.
Such an awesome picture.
It's really funny.
That's so great, man. You had mentioned before, and not to go too like in depth too soon, but you kind of made a name for yourself out there. There's so many things you look at now. If you look at a truck, it's always, oh, that truck's got Delmo wheels on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
seems literally you have become like the Nike of like the C10 crowd with that. If it's a smoothie wheel with a small cap, it's a
Yeah.
Delmo wheel.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
It's pretty awesome though. I mean, if you stop to think about it, you became a household brand.
Yeah, it's and it's hard to digest that for me because I'm a pretty humble guy, so I don't it's hard for me to even think that anyone knows who I am. But I guess when I really first realized it was when I started, when things kind of blew up with that wheel and that style, the patina and stuff. I would go to a local car show or truck show, and people would recognize me and want to talk to me, and that's kind of when I started cluing in that maybe what I was doing was having some kind of impact. That was like 9-10 years ago almost now. So a lot has changed, and I'm just trying to roll with it. But isn't that cool? It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, 'cause my question then was, and you kind of answered it already, which I mean, how do you deal with that? You almost have to adopt that. Like, you can't even come out there and promote a brand that you're trying to build. You literally had to adopt the fact that you became a brand.
Yeah.
You kind of had to hijack your own brand, which is so bizarre.
Yeah, right. And I had people around me that were telling me to do that because I was a bit oblivious to it. They're like, "You have a brand. You've created a brand and a style." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm underneath a truck right now. Like, I don't have time to deal with this. But yeah, I get the right people telling me that I should take advantage of this thing I've created, and so I did, and just been having a good time with it.
And you've got a really bitchin' logo too. I'm just gonna say. I'm just gonna leave that there.
Oh, yeah, there was this guy that I met through another guy, and I thought I maybe thought
Not on that app, Alex. Not on that
Oh,
app.
okay. All right. I'll be quiet.
yeah, yeah. I didn't know what to think of him at first, but he turned out to be a pretty good guy. Brian Thurston.
He's lame. He's lame. We don't mention his name will not be mentioned here.
That's right.
Yeah, that logo, it will never change, man. I mean, there might be some alterations here and there, but what you came up with will forever be the Delmo's deal for sure, and I thank you for that.
Oh, dude, I just kind of went toward the brand side because you became known for like the smoothie wheel again with the small cap, and then a few years down the road, you came out with your own line of wheels.
Yeah, right. So what I did there, and that, I did that on the forums back, the 6772 forums. It was kind of before Instagram, and there was a lot of cool truck guys on there, and so I just jumped on. I was building that shop truck for myself, and because I didn't have a job when I first moved to California, so I was just, my wife was working as a nurse, and so I was just picked up this old C10 rust-free deal, probably the last cheap one ever in existence. I think I paid $2,000 for it.
And, just before you ruined it for everybody.
Yeah. So I started building it on the forums, and I always had this idea to do a smoothie, kind of a old school steel wheel looking, but a big diameter. So Centerline had that smoothie wheel that they sold 1 million of, and so I got out my little protractor and scribed a line and drilled and tapped some holes, and I think I used Volkswagen clips and snapped a hubcap on there, spray painted the center black, and then I'll never forget, I kind of mocked up a fender over top of the wheel so kind of make it look, how it would look if it was laid out, and I posted that, and then then everything changed. Man, my inbox blew up.
For all the kids listening today, the inbox is something you used to have in these things called forums.
Yeah. Yeah. They all these ravens showed up at my house with all these messages.
Well, they were saying Evermore for you. That was...
Yeah. And then in a fortnight, I would build.
In a fortnight.
You just confused the hell out of our 3 listener kids now. They're going, Fortnite, I play that. And like, no.
He's one of us.
Yeah. So guys started sending me centerline wheels, and those things were super heavy. And
oh yeah.
And it was a real pain in the ass trying to get the hubcaps on there straight, because a lot of them were just bent out of the box. So I went over to the guys at Intro and said, can you guys design me or build me a wheel? Here's kind of a chicken scratch drawing, and I don't want the clips to move, and I want them to be centered, and then started building my own, and then it came, since then I think I got 6 or 7 different styles of wheels out there, but prices are high and they're pretty unique. So, but they're cool, I think.
Definitely, yeah, because it's just my whole thinking on that was weird. You go from being known for one kind of wheel, and you literally had to change everything to literally create your own wheel out of that. That's kind of the most backward possible situation. That's as Twilight Zone as it gets.
Yeah, right.
It's so cool though. So
yeah, it's fun. And then what's also kind of neat is and this goes against everything in business, but to watch other companies rip you off. Yeah, it was kind of a pat in the back in one hand, and then the other hand was like, well, this sucks. But what am I supposed to do? I'm a small fish. So
well, and that's something we go over a lot on the podcast is intellectual property and protecting your brand. It's so tough when it's the bigger company taking you on. I mean, it's easy when it's somebody else.
Sure.
I need to get a peer out there who takes and just rips you, like, oh, I'm going to do exactly what you do. And pretty much, it'd be weird, I guess, if you showed up at a car event and you ran into a guy who looks just like your clone, who's like, I just had all this work done overseas. Now I look just like you too.
Yeah.
Can you touch this so I have a sample of your fingerprint?
Yeah, it's probably happened already. But yeah, it happens. It still happens. Like every product, it seems like it kind of come out with something, and I'm learning that too right now. Just hooked up with a good friend who's teaching me the ropes about that, and learning how to patent stuff, and not so much patent, but trademark, and kind of protecting the brand a little bit. So it's good to know. Awesome,
man. And it's now okay, kind of keeping in that same line, I guess. Then, like you do work though with other companies. Like you've worked quite well over the years, and have a really good relationship with the guys over at AccuAir.
Yeah, those guys are like family.
And like if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, how did that come about for you? I mean, just as kind of, one of those weird things where like to add a little bit of value to the podcast and kind of give people a little bit of an inside track. I'm sure they'll get 15 phone calls this week from people going, I want to be Delmo.
Sure.
But go ahead. Here's my stack of bills. Be me.
Yeah.
So how did that relationship kind of like, I don't want to say materialize because we all know nothing happens overnight and that quick, but how did that kind of develop over the years for you?
Well, Acura was just on the rise at the same time I was. Those brothers are just incredible engineers, and I swear they can see the future. But they hit me up and they kind of seen what I was doing and was making an impact, so they wanted to jump on board and reach out to this growing truck market. So they wanted to do a video, and this is when these small edits were just starting to get popular. The little 1 and 2 minute, 3 minute YouTube videos. So they were kind of ahead of their time on that. So they sent down just a small production team, and we shot at the Old Crow. Just me and my fat ass sitting in a chair talking about what I do, and we shot some rolling videos of a couple of the trucks that I'd done, or maybe one. I think it was Nacho, and they posted it on YouTube, and it was a big success for them. We had a lot of fun with it, and we became really good friends. And then since then, did my best to promote their product in a good way, and it was really cool because they supported me at SEMA and invited me there, and helped me come up as much as I would like to think that I helped them. So what a great relationship, though, and still going strong.
That's outstanding, man. I remember that first one, and I think it was the Nacho truck. That was one of those really cool, and that was another weird kind of trend-setting truck on its own. And again, that truck though had a kind of a neat history behind it and a cool story, as does much of your stuff. And I'd be remiss not to fanboy you, but man, I got to tell you, you always have great names for your trucks. My feelings on. I'm not a big guy on naming any project. It's not my thing. But you always have good names.
Yeah, it wasn't that funny. Like I started naming these things, and then I'm not saying by any means that no one's ever named their vehicle, but in the C10 world, especially, people started naming them right away. As soon as they'd pick up a cab from the junkyard to build something, it would be named. It'd be like christened right away. But the names for my trucks didn't really even sometimes come until they were like halfway done. They would just kind of come naturally, but always super fun and meant to be funny.
Right on. Yeah, there's never a cringy one.
Ex-wife, some kind of thing going on there. Yeah, no, always really fun. Try to have fun with it as much as we could.
You should change up. Go through a dark period. We just name them really dark things like horrible, introspective. The kind of a truck that when it pulls in and somebody says the name, everybody just gets somber for a few minutes. You're like,
yeah. Little kids start crying.
Yeah.
Stalin, we could
Stalin. Most of the trucks that you'd built over the years were Chevrolets or GMCs, and I'm a big GM Chevrolet guy. Has anybody ever brought you a Ford and you said, well, I'll do a Ford?
Yeah, I've done a few Fords, and really happy to do them because I come from a hot rod background, which that industry is mostly Ford. Yeah. All the pre-war stuff, and even in the 40s, 50s. I've built lots of the 56 Fords and 48, that style F1. And so, man, every time I get a chance to build a Ford, I'm all over it. I love working on them. But yeah, Chevys are the most, not important, obviously, but the most popular. So
yeah.
Well, and okay, you mentioned that's something we should really talk about. You really came up in this industry via the hot rod side, which is weird to say because it's so segmented now. I mean, there's the truck guys, there's the hot rod guys, and then in the hot rod world, it all separates down to traditional guys and street rod guys. But you started off in that hot rod side.
Yeah, and it was I was kind of in that scene right before it separated. Like you said, it was everyone was kind of having fun, and then that's when it really separated between the street rodders, the gold chainers, and then the rat rods. And then the traditional hot rod guys, the customs. It really started to get political and kind of thick. So it was really a good change to get into the C10 scene because it was new and it was exciting and it was really a family deal. Everyone was like super stoked. You know, the hot rod scene started to get pretty competitive, and let's be honest. I mean, there was so many things have been done in hot rodding. It's really hard to be new and set trends, without $1 million. So the C10 thing was fun, and it was an easy transfer for me to take what I learned in hot rodding and kind of apply it to classic trucks. Less is more. That's kind of how I was with hot rods too. So I just kind of adapted that to pickup trucks.
Like growing up then, what were your inspirations as far as hot rods or, cars in general go?
Oh, I guess as far back as I can remember was California Kid. Well, we go back to TV, it would be Fall Guy and Dukes of Hazzard. And then, as I grew up, it was Cadzilla, Rick Doberton, Troy Chapinier built a green 60. Was it a Biscayne or a Bel Air, or was it Impala? I think it was Impala, right?
Impala, yeah, greenhouse effect.
Yep, that green one.
Yeah.
And so he had, the brushed billets on there, and it was ultra tidy. So those inspired me to keep, make it smooth and simple and clean. And so I guess early on that was my inspiration, and then I watched Chip and watched his work ethic, and then really kind of took that into what I was doing. And in Canada, it's hard because in the States, I think you're kind of surrounded by it. You could go to a good guy show and meet one of your heroes or, whatever. In Canada, it's a little bit tricky to do that. So I would try to make a trip once a year and do my little round through California and try to go to Brizio's and try to go to Boyd's and, suck in as much as I could, while I was there. Mostly it was just through print media that I would see all this cool shit happening, and it was, that's all I needed. I would just sit back and watch,
Yeah. At some point you made that big decision to leave. Was it Alberta where you were from in Canada? Up in that area? Yeah. To leave that place and all your family and friends and come to California. What was it that gave you that final push to go, this is where I need to be?
Well, I was real successful with our shop. We'd won a bunch of awards. I think we built like 15 of those Dearborn 32s, and we're doing some pretty good budget cars. They were mostly all street rods. We built some traditional cars in there. Small town. Everybody gets to know you, and then everyone's out for you. And it was just it was getting a little stressful. Not gonna lie, but we had a real successful shop. And then I met my wife. She's a nurse, so that's kind of a nurse can kind of work anywhere in the world. Right. So that was kind of a no-brainer. We're like, let's get out of the winter and the freezing cold, and maybe move somewhere warmer and where there's a good car scene, and fire up something, go have some fun. So we just I sold the company to this guy who wanted to be the next Boyd Coddington. He just wanted to have a turnkey shop, and then we sold our houses and sold all of our stuff and packed up our bags. And I had a 61 Ford Unibody that was all original, and we hauled that behind a U-Haul box van and with our old hound dog, and we came down with nothing. Didn't know a single person down here. And we were driving down was it the 5 freeway, I think, through Burbank, and I seen the studios, Warner Brothers, and I was like, whoa, Burbank, there's a lot of history here, and Leno's here, and Troy Ladd was here. Let's just pull in and grab a hotel. So we grabbed a hotel. My wife went to work the next morning at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Beverly Hills, and her first patient was Elizabeth Taylor.
No way! Wow!
Yeah, and then I went down and got a job with Troy Ladd. So we were off to a real good start. It was really cool. It was really fun.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and hell, your shop was next to Troy's place for years, and that was a cool little neighborhood. That was such a cool location. I'm not trying to make you feel bad now. I know you're happy where you're at, but
oh no, dude, it was so rad. Right on Palm Street. We're down from Barney's Beanery, which is a real popular place to eat and drink. And then Dave Martinez, the interior guy, was across the street. I was working for Hollywood Hot Rods at the time. Bobby Green with Old Crow was beside us, and there was a production company beside the Old Crow that did Sharknado.
Right.
and all those shitty like B movies, And
You guys
so
were literally, you could walk from your shop and like what, like half a block away was the AMC, what is it, 15 or whatever in
yeah,
Burbank.
big theater.
God,
Yeah.
such a cool spot. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just like,
Oh no,
man.
no, it's no problem. It was rad. I mean, it wouldn't be strange to see like Lou Ferrigno walk by, and we'd always love it when they were casting for super hot chicks because in front of Hollywood Hot Rods and Old Crow, they would pace back and forth up and down the sidewalk, practicing their lines. So we'd just pull up a chair out front there at our lunch break and watch all the yeah, it was a really kind of a magical place. Then, like buses full of tourists would come by, especially if Grand National Roadster Show was in town or Moon Eyes or something. All these cool cars would stop in, the choppers would come by. All the who's who of land speed racing and hot rodding would, we'd see them weekly. They're really cool. Got to meet some really neat people there.
We kind of jumped ahead. Now we're going to Tarantino the hell out of this thing.
Yeah, that's my fault.
So going back, okay, you're working for Troy Ladd. At what point do you make the decision to jump out and go kind of back on your own?
Well, I remember working one night and Troy put his hand on my ass. And he kind of winked at me.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we need a hashtag Delmo too.
Yeah. I was like, well, I don't think of you that way, Troy. Like, and it got awkward. No, everything was going really good at Troy's. He was good to work for, and I was glad that he had me on. But Bobby Green and I, since I started working at Troy's, got to know each other quite well, and we hit it off and just had a lot in common and became really good friends. The truck that I'd built at home while I was working at Troy's had gained some speed by this time, and I was getting so many DMs for wheels and actual truck builds now. I was like, maybe I should just pull the trigger and do this on my own. And just then Bobby said, hey, why don't you come into the Old Crow and we'll give you half the shop. We'll split the rent. And so I rolled up my toolbox and shook Troy's hand and literally pushed my toolbox about 60 feet up into the Old Crow. And then we really started having some fun. Really took that truck thing to the next level.
That's really cool, man. You really are. You're kind of that version of the American dream. You came to our country as a poor immigrant.
Yes.
Hauling your car behind a U-Haul.
Did all the
or whatever they call them in Canada. U-Haul.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh.
Wow.
Where's that?
Moose call, whatever.
Sorry.
Hey, Canada's going to take over and you're all going to be sorry.
No, it's going to be good. You guys.
I've seen South Park. I know what happens.
Jeez. I grew up right on the Canadian border. I'm immune to polar bear bites and flying hockey pucks, so things are going to be fine. Well, this went delightfully off track.
Well, now I'm worried about Canada. See, that was fine before. Now I'm scared.
Yeah.
Be very afraid.
Canadian subscribers probably protesting.
This is going to be great. JF's going to call tomorrow.
JF.
Yeah.
So we're gonna lose. We got 6 people listening. We're gonna lose 3 of them. Is that what you're saying?
2/3 of their population. Okay.
So working in Bobby's shop, I've never met Bobby, but I heard Bobby's a really cool dude, and he's very eclectic in what he collects and what he does. He's got to be kind of a fun guy to hang out with.
My God, he's it's a trip, man, because he's if you were to not meet him and look at his house and see his car collection, look at his wardrobe, that kind of thing. If you were to like just view his world without meeting him, you'd swear he was 105 years old. He's a really old soul. Like he doesn't just do it to do it like as a poser. It's legitimately his lifestyle. I'll never forget. He had somebody helping him out at the shop, and he said, "Hey, can you put this on my 32?" He had a original paint 32 Roadster or something, and so the guy like grabs this thing, grabs some, Phillips head screws or something like that and puts it on. And he's like, whoa. No, go into that old bolt bin with all the flathead screws that are rusty. Take all those new, Phillips head number 10s out of there or whatever and put all flathead. So it's like, every detail is really important to him. And he owns like I think 10 bars in LA now that are all very period correct and kind of themed to a certain period in time. So it parlays into every part of his life, and not only being super autistic, he's a really humble, super nice guy. So pretty awesome dude. If you ever get a chance to meet him or go see his collection, it's worth the time.
Badass. Definitely a cool dude.
Yeah.
Definitely a cool guy. So let's see. Now you start working on your own out of back of Old Crow.
Mm-hmm.
Delmo's is on its way. From a self-promotional standpoint at the time, how were you getting the word out there? Or were you just like kind of a word of mouth thing? One person would have work done by you and send you 5 more guys.
Yeah, it was 100% word of mouth. And then very quickly, street trucks and early classic trucks, something like that.
There's custom classic trucks. There was
custom classic trucks, I think was the one.
Yeah, our good buddy Tim. Yeah,
Tim Burnsaw. Yeah, and then at the time Jason Mulligan was with Street Trucks, I believe. So those two rags, did a couple shots of some of the trucks. Nacho and my first one, and then then the ball started really rolling on that. And printed some shirts, and it was then I think it wasn't that long after then I started doing the LS motors, and that's when I had the bright idea to kind of make them look vintage. And then Tim did a good layout on that as well, and that's when I really started to realize that I needed to get a website and really kick this thing off. So
right on. And yeah, you kind of spearheaded what has become just kind of the norm now to make an LS motor look more vintage. And your first one's really cool with the script, valve covers and everything like that. God, those are good days.
Yeah. How much of a challenge was it to take an engine that really is a great engine, but it's just not attractive, and to do what you did? I mean, the first one out of the box, how difficult was that? Was there just a lot of trial and error, or one of those, I got an idea of what I want, I just got to keep not chipping away at this till I get it to where visually it's where I want it?
Yeah, I knew what I wanted it to look like, which was the important part. And then I knew a guy that worked down the street, Kevin Deeds. He makes these real bitchin' exhaust hangers, and he has a little CNC machine in his shop, and he's a good programmer. So I would draw out these stupid drawings on paper, and he would kind of make sense of them and make them a reality. But at the same time, I didn't know if the engine would run as well as it should have.
Yeah, that was another question I was going to have. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, this is a big question because you throw the throttle body on top with a dual plane intake, and obviously nothing's going to flow as good as that plastic one that it comes with, but turns out it does. It works great, and it's just gotten better ever since.
What do you use for fuel injection? You use like some sort of a Holly type unit, like a Terminator?
No, I use just the GM stuff. So I just use the GM computer. Like nowadays, we just use an E38, which is a small computer. Everything is 58X, and if it's not, we change the reluctor wheel so that it is, and so you can run the small computer, and all the wires are hidden, and it's a speed density tune, and which most tuners prefer to tune on speed density anyway. So it's harder to find somebody that's good at it, unfortunately. Most guys are used to tuning on mass airflow. So it's a little bit of mystery for some people, but they eventually get it. A lot of times we'll send our motors out with a tune in it already that's pretty close. So guys can get in there and tweak it, and it's not too much work.
So who are the majority of your customers for these particular engines? Are they the truck guys, or are you now selling them to even car guys and other projects?
Yeah, honestly, mostly car guys now. So, and that's kind of what I'd predicted. A lot of old 567 Tri-Fi Chevy guys that have, the ZZ4, crate motors in there, or the infamous "it's got Corvette heads" motor.
Yeah.
500 horsepower. Those motors, that don't make any power or super unreliable. Those guys are like starting to find out that they can keep the look and have all this drivability. So it's mostly, honestly, the Camaro and Tri-5 guys, but it's great because there was a big LSX, or I think it was like, what's that, 1320? It's like a media Instagram and YouTube where they do tons of...
Yeah, right. 1320
video.
Right.
Video, yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
They posted, I think, a picture or something like that of an LS that I did that looked like a Y block. It was blue. It had the Ford valve covers on it. I'd kind of make the plug wires go behind the motor, kind of look like a distributor, because in the Y blocks the distributor was in the back. So, and there was like 4,500 comments, and some of the comments were just amazing. Ford guys would get in there and be like, "You guys are idiots. It's a Ford. Why because it's not a Ford. It doesn't have a distributor in the front." And then Ford experts would get on there and be like, "It's a Y block, you idiots, because the distributor's in the back." So
you idiot.
Yeah, controversy, and which is great because it really brought to light that you could maybe even put one of these LS motors into a Ford and get away with it. Because in my opinion, the LS motor is a universal motor. It really is. I think they're built at Roush even. It's just a universal engine, and so to dress it up however you want and put it in whatever you want, I don't think is taboo anymore.
What's the biggest challenge on making one look vintage? Is there any one component that requires a lot of work to get it to look right?
The time travel aspect.
Yeah. There's more things I would like to do. Like obviously the fuel rails are still there on my engines because I like the direct injection. I don't want to move those.
I don't mind the way they look though. I think they look okay. Because you've done them in black and it just kind of worked.
Yeah, or you paint them the same color as the engine, kind of make them disappear, but it just works so good. If I could develop an intake where the injectors were underneath or something, that would be incredible, but it would just make the price of the engine so high. I'm trying to keep these things affordable. So
how many motors do you sell a month?
Probably, I don't advertise them. That's another thing. Like they're not on my website. I'll post a picture on Instagram once in a while. That's it. So I don't actively try to sell them because I don't think I'm ready to do that. Like if I were to get a bunch of orders, I'd be kind of screwed. I'd have to hire a bunch of people and stuff. So I think like right now I'm selling like 5 or 6 a month, which is good. There's good enough margin in it. It's easy enough to do, in the shop. It's no problem. So, but yeah, I think if I were to advertise and try to go after it, it would change things for sure.
You're using like LS3s as your basis?
Yeah, I'm just ordering. I get them from a local dealership, real cheap.
That's
and
good.
then we do have a LM7 too that we build, which is the old Gen 3 5.3 motors, the steel blocks. And then so I have a local shop in Phoenix build those with a 58X reluctor and a mild camshaft. So, when they're done and all painted up, they look identical. It's just they're a little bit more money and a little bit less horsepower. I think the last one did 385 at the tire, which is pretty decent.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
So that's and that's a good cheap 5.3 motor with a cam, that looks vintage. It looks identical to the LS3.
That's a good runner.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's mind blowing how much power you can get out of an LS3 with just a cam change. It's guys always talk about the old motors. The old motors are great and everything, but those LSs, man, they're incredible.
Yeah, you can't even compare them, man. Like I'll even jump in some old car or something that has a ZZ4 in it, which those were supposed to be 430 horse, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the ZZ430. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I get in one of those and it's just a turd. Like I don't know, man. And I'm an old school guy too. I love that shit, man. I'm LS all the way now, man. You could not give me a carburetor. If you were to give me a brand new carburetor in a box, I wouldn't take it.
We got to get you to Hemis next.
Yeah.
Would I get a Hemi?
This is going to be the next thing. Although you can't come. Dell S3 just sounds right. I don't know what you're going to do with a Hemi.
I kind of, yeah.
He's just going to make it look like an LS3. See. So.
Get rid of these silly heads and put some proper LS heads on it.
The experts will be out there in the forums going, "You dummy! It's not a Hemi. It runs." So,
That's a wedge motor. That's not it.
Oh, dude, it's so funny to read some of those comments, though. Oh my gosh.
that'd be an interesting way to take this. You've obviously you've been part of the outgrowth of social media from the days of online communities and forums, and seeing it now go to like total instant gratification on like Instagram and Facebook. Is it better for you in that way, or is it just more entertaining for you to have to go in and deal with? I mean, naturally you're going to find all kinds of cool stuff at your fingertips, but at the same token, you're going to find the trolls and kind of the guys who don't know what the hell they're talking about, who just want to make a post to be heard.
Man, that's growing pains because I'm not real good at it. Like, I should do more on social media, but I'm just not good at it. Again, going back to kind of not wanting to ever talk about myself. So, I've got probably 20 things in the shop right now that would blow people's minds that I know I should go take pictures of, but I just don't. Like, I don't think about it. And I know I should put more effort into that because, like you say, a lot of people are looking for that instant gratification, and it is such a powerful tool. You really got to work at it.
Oh yeah, and today would be great. So you just need a direct-to-garment printer set up, and every post you make, just have a new T-shirt sitting hanging out, like draped over the wheel.
Unfortunately, people don't like. It's funny when you post picture of your personal life, right? Like a picture of your dog or something or whatever, you get like 3 likes.
Oh yeah, but if you post that red hot rivet that you just bounced out of that frame rail laying over in the corner, that's 1,300 likes.
It goes viral.
Yeah, I can start creating drama in the shop now so that I get more people watching, throwing shit through windows, wrecking paint jobs, and
Here you go. Just create kind of this weird alternate dimension for yourself in the shop where you're maybe having like this total psychotic breakdown, and it just becomes a battle between you and other you that's in your head. This could be a great channel for you.
I would love to have a clone shop that I could kind of walk back and forth and then have an alternate ego where I go into the other shop and just turn into the biggest dick and kick people out and
drink lots of Miller Lite.
Just garbage and throw.
I know how to do this.
Employees' hands.
Okay, what we need to do, we need to mask your shop off. You need to paint half of it black. Just have black walls, everything. That's like Evil Dell shop.
Oh yeah.
This could be outstanding.
There'd have
Evil
to be
Dell Wednesdays on YouTube would be great.
We'd do a green screen too, so we could change it up.
Just paint everything chroma key green.
It's like Spy versus Spy, but it's Dell versus Dell. This is cool.
I hope all these production companies are listening right now.
We're here to help.
Yep.
This sucker goes live. All I want on that, I just want an executive producer credit.
You got it.
I want to be key grip. Don't know what the hell a key grip is, but I want to be that guy.
I always wanted to meet a key grip.
Or a gaffer.
Or a best boy. Well,
yep, the best boy.
Yeah, some TV stuff. Some TV guys hit me up a lot when I was in Burbank. I just wasn't into it, man. There was no good concepts. It was all the same stuff. I just was never interested in doing it.
You want an original thing. Maybe we're like a shop in Nebraska or something abducts you one night and forces you to work for them. See, that'd be an interesting concept.
Like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but like an automotive kind of spin on it.
Or that wife swap show where they just swap 2 guys. One guy from Nebraska goes to California and the other way around.
Yeah, one guy starts putting Lambo doors on shit, and then the other a 4x4 shop or something. So he's lifting all these Honda Civics and stuff, and all these hillbillies are getting Lambo doors on their pickup.
Oh no! Or just take you completely out of the hot rod world and throw you into something where you have to do tractor maintenance.
Yeah.
Solar sales.
Something. Yeah, I think if you focus, you could be good at anything.
That's true.
Yeah, and okay, that right there hits on one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about in this whole thing. Everybody always talks about passion and things like that. You're passionate. I would never take that away from you. But you've always struck me more as the effort guy, where you push it a little bit further every time. Your builds are super clean, super detailed. You spend a ton of time in the minutest of little details, which is super cool to look at. You succeed very well. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. That's the last thing I want to do. But hey, you exemplify that effort part of it that seemed to be dead for a long time in this thing. It seemed to be again, back to the instant gratification. It was, quickest build possible for a lot
Yeah.
of guys.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's I guess I've always kind of been that way, and at the same time, a lot of that comes to where I want the customer to be happy more than anything. Like, this industry is so full of bad stories that you already start off in the negative almost when you start a build with somebody because they're almost on the defense right away. And you've heard a million of those stories, right? Where the guy had to rescue his car out of the paint shop or whatever. So I never wanted that to happen. I always want it to be a good experience, and so I try to like put as much effort into it as I can based on the budget and the wishes of the customer. Obviously, there's some builds that I would like to take back, and in the Burbank days we grew so fast that things happened quick, and some things were missed, and you learn that, I guess, as you go. Luckily, most of my customers were real patient. Some weren't, but to now that we've really found our niche and we've slowed things down, we can really focus on those details, and I think that's the most important thing. And also design. Obviously, you can. And Brian, you know this because you could put $1 million into a car. Well, we've seen them at Detroit where there's all this work and all this money, and then it's got the wrong wheels or it's just something wrong about it. And so I try to make all those things right, and I try to make something out of nothing. So I try to change the world with every build, despite the budget. I like to come up with something clever that makes it cool. Like I remember in the forums, and I don't know if any of you guys remember this, but I hate floor shifters. And on my 65, it was a 4-speed truck, so it didn't have a column shift, and I put an auto in it, and I was trying to think what I should do. I didn't want to look for an auto column, so those 65 trucks had the e-brake under the steering column, the ones you pull.
Right.
Kind of.
Yep.
Right.
So I took the e-brake cable out and I put the shifter cable there. So you shifted it with the e-brake handle.
That was so cool.
That is slick. I like it.
And it worked good because it had the little clickies. It would stay into gear, and it was actually worked out perfectly. So it was just like those little things like that kind of are what makes the customer like super stoked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it really didn't cost anything. So
speaking of details like that, for a guy that's as creative as you, where do you find inspiration for things like this? Are you one of those kind of guys that's always got his mind open and always looking at things and trying to repurpose?
Yeah, everything, every single thing, architecture, science, hinges on a cabinet, or whatever it is. I just geek out on that shit so hard. Like I'm a huge science guy. I love all that weird stuff. And I think my cleanliness came from, back in the day, like watching Boyd stuff and Chip stuff, Cadzilla, and, those kind of cars really inspired me. Troy Chapini, obviously. And so, you mix that cleanliness with some ingenuity from whatever inspires you, and try to make it work. And so far I've been lucky. I think. But
and that's what I like about your stuff, because your stuff isn't one of those, it's $1 million thing here. It's very clever, very slickly done, and it's not done on a massive budget scale. It's all done very, very cleanly. And that's what I like about the way that you do things. I mean, it's a lot of it's hidden. A lot of it's, you really got to make a couple laps around the truck to really catch it all. And I like that kind of stuff. I don't like the stuff that's really in your face. I like the stuff that, you don't see maybe for the second or third time around. Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, restraint is a big thing. A lot of people can't overcome going too far. Sometimes less is more. And it's really hard for me to go to car shows. Like I usually don't go, but because I'll see things that I'll criticize, and it's not fair. It's not fair to the person that spent all that money and time and passion on it. But for me, it's like I can't wrap my head around why they would do certain things, and so I, rather than criticize these cars, and I just don't go. It sounds weird. It sounds really weird, but it's hard for me to go to a car show. Like it's cool to walk around SEMA because it's like I actually get inspiration from SEMA. There's things that are just next level, and you see those big budget cars, and it's just like blows my mind. You know what Roadster Shop's doing, and Ring Brothers, and these guys. You know, they have all that technology at their fingertips. It's just stunning. You know, but that's not the real world for me. I just try to stay in my lane. But yeah, I'm pretty picky when it kind of comes to that stuff.
Right on, yeah. You know, when you go to SEMA and you see something like you said, you see the $1 million+ build. The funny part about that is the way your brain works, and at least my brain really works this way. I'll look at something and go, man, they invested all the time to come up with the programming to mill that part or do this. And my head is immediately going, I could do this using these tools here and get something similar to it, or at least come up with something that looks kind of like,
Yeah.
and that's where my inspiration goes. I'm like, what could I do to branch off of that? And I always looked at it, that's the investment. They did all the R&D on that. They spent the millions of dollars to come up with the cool part.
Yeah.
And then there's us going, okay, how could we filter that down to like our skill set? So where you could go out and make something really cool out of it, I'll just sit there and I'll bang, a mallet off of a piece of wood and pretend it looks like it.
Yeah, but I mean, you're fortunate. You're a designer that gets, to work directly with some of these big shots. And I mean, how fun is it to stretch your brain out a little bit and watch what you come up with come to reality? I mean, that's just incredible. So
It's fun, but it's depressing at the same time. No, and I mean this like it's the weirdest thing. When you get that much freedom, this is where we dive into like philosophy, if you really went that way. That whole like, man is born free, but everywhere he's in chains. And that's kind of where you wind up in that, where
Yeah.
you could do anything you want and you stand there like a deer, in the headlights going, anything? Like, well, yeah, we just bought this 5-axis mill, go to town. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so if I do this inverted tesseract in the 5th dimension, well,
Yep.
sure. Yeah, we're just gonna need to come up with a drive for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, but there's a guy for that too. So, but yeah, it's gratifying. But at the end of the day, it's not yours, right? You go home without it. It's kind of the same for me. I haven't had a truck since I started this whole truck thing. So, it's like the carpenter or the shoemaker never has good
cobbler's
shoes.
kids, right? Yeah,
So-
cobbler's shoes. Well, well, I don't know. Or well, that was weird. The cobbler's kids. Well, what's that cobbler doing? But I'm gonna shut up now.
Now, do you have a desire to build one, right? Another vehicle, or is this just one of those? It's just not in the thought right now.
Well, finally this year, and I haven't posted any pictures of it. I'll sneak you off a text message of it. But I'm building a '64 Falcon for myself.
Right on.
Finally,
Badass.
Now, 64s, they're not the little round ones. That's when they first started putting a little bit more squareness to them, right? A little bit.
Yeah, first year of those real sharp ones.
Yeah, those are like the Thunderbolt stuff. No, not before that. Or is it the Thunderbolt?
No, you're going to like Fairlanes and stuff like
Okay,
that.
all right.
Yeah, they're a pretty small car still, but
Gotcha. Oh, I know. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, real sharp lines, and so I'm building it. One of the memories I had with my dad was he built a '64 that was a Street Freak, if you can remember those cars.
Yeah, yes.
So straight axle in the front, and then flip the diff and shackles and blocks in the back. So, the back bumper is like 4 feet in the air. This is that build. So it's I reinforced the body and structured it up real good, and it is a mile high. It's really, really tall. It's got the tallest tire I can find, and then the wheel well is like good 5 inches over top of that. So big, long ladder bars. And then I actually found the 426 Hemi out of the Hawaiian funny car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with a magnesium blower on it and the whole deal. Guy down the road, this is an old timer, had it. So it's got 426 Hemi in it with a Hampton blower and a 6-speed. It is ridiculous. Like it looks like kind of a cartoon, kind of a Bernie and Crass deal, but it's really neat.
That's funny, isn't it? The guy who builds these trucks, he's known for stuff that sits flat on the ground.
Just flat on the ground, big diameter wheels.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's gonna get it, honestly, but it's just for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Believe me, I love this.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really a sight to see when you see something that high, big. Chrome, everything's chrome underneath, chrome roll bar, and big old blower sticking out of the hood. So
I like the fact that you called it a Street Freak. You called it exactly what it is, because a lot of these guys will build cars like that and call them gassers. It's like, it's not a gasser. You've got a Street Freak. Oh no, it's a gasser.
Yeah.
They never made Pontiac Aztec gassers, dude.
Dude, it's like the Prescott thing, man, or the rat rod hot rod thing. I'm already ready for it. I gotta,
You're already prepared.
educate a lot of people, but it's cool. I don't. A lot of people know that it was a
Yeah.
very small group back then, but
Yeah.
it was so cool.
That was kind of right in the era when I started really getting into hot rods. The Street Freaks kind of came out, and everybody liked that stuff. It was just crazy. Everybody was kind of trying to outdo each other, and it did get a little bit over the top, but there were still some really bitching ones out there.
Yeah, like anything, they kind of turn into art cars after a while, but this one's not really practical either. I mean, it's not going to turn good or go straight very well, or it's not really going to do anything good but make a bunch of noise. So
scare children,
it'll scare everybody. Yeah.
Well, to me, it's funny when you look at it. Most builders, you look at the style they get known for, and the cars they would build are nothing like that because it's that weird compartmentalization. You have that job. Like, I mean, if you know a guy who owns a pizzeria, he doesn't eat pizza every day.
Right.
Probably never eats pizza.
Yeah.
And if, like, for me, even, like, I got known for designing pro touring cars.
Yep.
I wouldn't build one. It's not my bag. It's kind of funny like that. So here you are, man, Dell with his super low trucks and this and that, and here comes Dell. Now, are you gonna turn this into a complete lifestyle for yourself? Dude, you should Bobby this whole thing for yourself and like totally get some solar flares,
like a couple, this
butterfly collars, everything. Just live that 70s street freak lifestyle, dude.
Mustache, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Greek medallion, fake chest hair.
What 8-track would I have in it?
REO Speedwagon.
No, it's not. That's not hard enough. You need something. I almost say you have to go Motorhead. To me, Street Freak always kind of equal Motorhead. I don't know why.
Motorhead kind of came along a little bit later, though. I gotta think Street Freak. That's like 78, 79.
That's very Manilow, man.
Manilow.
Would there be AC/DC and?
Oh yeah, AC/DC was
Nazareth. I don't know if you knew this.
Okay, Nazareth. What if we want like early punk stuff too, like?
Oh yeah, DOA or Dead Kennedys or something.
Yeah. I mean, kind of that route.
Did they have 8 tracks? Those guys?
Sure. I think that's all they had. Well,
we'll put it on 8 track.
The rich guys had cassettes, but the poor guys had to. Yeah.
We'll put it on 8 track. I mean.
Having said that, I do have a brand new in the box 8-track that's going to go in it. So
badass.
You need to get there. Well, if you're talking Nazareth, Hair of the Dog is the name.
Yes.
Dude, that's what you need to have loaded in that player.
I'm so glad to do that.
Oh man, we got to find you one of those.
Do you know Eric out here? Eric Anderson.
Eric Anderson. I've probably met him. I'm just
big van guy out here. He'd be the dude. I got to get you guys in touch because there'd be your 8-track hookup.
Oh, wouldn't that be incredible to find a big stack of old 8-tracks?
I will put you in touch. You guys would get along well.
Okay,
so we got that figured out. Next, we're gonna have to take your house that you're living in. We're gonna have to mow that down and start from scratch.
Yep.
How awesome would this be? Oh, that's maybe it's a new calling for us. We'll be like the Round 6 Hot Rod Lifestyle Coaches.
Yeah, what's that like? Where they come into a bar and get
a bar rescue.
Yeah, you could do that.
We'd be the antithesis of rescue though for a lot of people.
Lifestyle rescue.
Yeah.
A lot of guys going, well, the divorce was fun.
Yeah. Well, the life coaches told me to get rid of her.
They told me to take acid and wear these jeans.
Every show starts off, it's like a dropping a tab of acid. Like, let's do this.
Eating the mushroom off the top of the cow poop.
Oh shit! Yeah.
This one just earned that E rating. Nice job, dude.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, I don't know how old you guys are, but the truck scene kind of thing is starting to get younger and younger too. I'm afraid that like at some point I'm gonna run out of talent and kind of have to move on to the next thing. So trend. No matter how hard you try, I think trends sway a different direction and the whole scene goes a different way. So I'm definitely not a follower. So at some point probably have to grow up. I don't know.
Well, that was one of the things we talked about off air, and I think that kind of warrants being brought up here too. We were talking about how right now there's not really any new trends. Everything right now is kind of developed from, and it's refining the current trend that's out there. And we haven't seen anything new. I mean, we're seeing, okay, maybe you could consider the retro kind of look a trend where people are grabbing like the big window Halobrand wheels and stuffing those under everything. That's kind of a trend, but it's not new. And
Yeah.
man, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, it's well, in the truck world, it's almost happening too fast. It went to square bodies real quick. Now people are starting to look at the OBS trucks already, which is the 88 to whatever. And it's too soon, in my opinion. Like, it's way too soon. Everyone in the world's running solid wheels with hubcaps. And it's just, so I've kind of backed away from it a little bit. I just try to do my thing and getting creative with these engines. And, to let you in on a little secret, do you know Eric Black?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Eric and I are kind of working on a 4-wheel drive deal. So maybe switching gears from 2-wheel drive and a 4-wheel drive.
See, I think that would be cool. And there's a lot to explore there. And the scary part too is that that's an easy thing to fall into, that trap of just retro trends. Everything suddenly looks like 1979 again.
Yeah, you got to be careful, and you got to choose your demographic. I think what I'm in now kind of caps out at a certain dollar amount. I'm dealing with guys that are between 30 and 50 that are pretty successful and have a few bucks to spend. But we'll be honest and say that about $120 is really what anyone really wants to spend on a pickup truck. So to push that threshold, I think I have to explore different avenues.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because like anything, I mean, there's going to be one or two of those trucks that'll be kind of that weird upper echelon, again, that Riddler status type truck.
Yeah.
But then, that's not average by any stretch. It's kind of weird. You brought up another point though. If you're in business, you've really got to find that demographic that fits where you want to be building for. Like, everybody would love to have the guy who comes in and says, I've got $1.5 million, let's build.
Yeah, I would talk him out of it, honestly.
Yeah, me too. That's the thing. It's so weird. It's that you have total freedom, but you immediately go for restraint.
Yeah, let's build you 3 super cool vehicles instead. Like, let's build something you can go thrash or take to, we'll build you a show car that you could blow people's minds with. That's what I really love more than anything is putting something beside another that is worth 10 times the amount, and nobody looks at it. They always look at what I've created over something that someone's just poured a bunch of money into. It's like the most satisfying thing I can think of when it comes to what I do. It's like, straight victory. If you can kind of win people over that way, just with pure imagination and, some hard work and detail over massive budgets and machinery.
Well, I think that's kind of what Hot Rod's based on. I think it's, building something that's not hugely expensive. You required a lot of creativity, some Saturdays in a wrecking yard, whatever.
Yeah,
and I just
creativity and personality.
Right. I think we've kind of lost that a little bit because now everybody, we've said this in the past, everybody kind of reads out of the same recipe book. It's
yeah,
and have something different.
For sure. And having said that, my hat is off to all the people that are building those big dollar ones, because the ingenuity and the design and the imagination is beyond, like, it's jaw dropping, but that's just not me. So I like maybe to be the underdog, and I'm a little bit more grassroots when it comes to this stuff, and just coming at it at a different angle. So
and you hit that really well. We need those huge cars, those marquee cars, because those are the Babe Ruth and everything for our for our thing. That's the car that can come up and knock the ball clean out of the park into the next time zone. Mm-hmm. You need that because it's something to reach for. That's somebody just really pushing creativity.
Mm-hmm. Sort of, for sure, because that car goes into a trailer and then it goes into a warehouse, and then it goes back into the trailer. So you're right. I strive for some of that, but at the same time, I don't want anything to do with a lot.
Oh, no. And that's exactly the point. I mean, they serve a purpose. Yeah. It has its thing. And and the funny part is, you learn later on when they go to auction, you learn what the perceived value is, which is really full of suck. But
that's a heartbreak.
And that's the thing. That's the blockbuster movie for us. It's, you watch, you go, oh, that's so awesome that they did all this. But in reality, I think we'd all rather be home filming that weird stop motion epic,
Yeah.
with action figures on a desk, because it's more fun, and you can put some real soul into it.
Yeah, and sometimes those big dollar builds will have some features on them where it's like, the average guy looks at it and goes, I think I can do that. I may not have a 5-axis mill like we talked about, but I think I could build a part that looks kind of similar to that for mine. And, sometimes those big dollar builds can give you some ideas to work from, definitely on a much smaller scale, but
Yep.
it's like a piece of fine art. I'm never going to buy that piece of fine art. I can look at it and go, hey, it's cool, but I'm going to probably buy the print at Hobby Lobby.
Well, right. And again, though, but that's kind of the root of our whole hot rodding thing, isn't it? I mean, think about when the guys first came back from the war, they started applying things that they had seen on aircraft and, artillery and things like that, stuff that could make it work. So there was that inspiration. And are any of these guys ever going to have a bomber or a tank? No, but they could build a really cool car and utilize parts from that. I think we're kind of at that point now where there's a handful of super talented, visionary, and obviously very well-funded builders who do that thing. But to talk to these guys, for the most part, their dream cars are really kind of lower budget, far more grounded vehicles. And I think, we all kind of go back to that. So, God, it's a weird time we live in, man. It'll be interesting to see how it goes at SEMA this year.
Yeah, I mean, pretty soon everyone's gonna have a 3D printer or some kind of 8-axis CNC machine in the garage. Like it won't be long till it's going to be so easy to come up with this kind of stuff that, I don't know, it could get so weird, it could get so crazy that, we're going to start seeing stuff that doesn't even make sense from a hot rod aspect. It's going to just take on a mind of its own. But man, nothing presses me more than, catching an Instagram that somebody's, machined some rad, manifold or something that's just like pure science fiction. It's just so cool to see.
I wonder too, like you mentioned, okay, if we get to a point where the prices keep coming down, so everybody's got a 3D printer or like some kind of a small mill. I wonder if it's going to be like it was when welders came down in price, and all of a sudden everybody was a fabricator. So you had that weird separation, and you had all the guys who were starting to build these pre-runners and stuff in their garage, but they were such garbage.
Yeah. Check out my welding, bro. It's like, oh no.
Right?
Oh no.
Is there a point where, or is it like a whole subset out there that maybe I have to go look harder on Instagram and see if there's like a whole group of guys who just really suck at 3D printing or milling?
They can't even make a round part. It's like oval.
That would be me.
Dude, I made this door handle, and you're like, it looks like a hood ornament.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming, guys.
Yeah.
So, dude, well, there we are. We went from the past all the way to the future.
Yeah.
And probably beyond.
This is kind of a Tarantino-style podcast, isn't it?
Look how this went. And now comes the part here where Alex just turns on all of us and leaves us for dead in a warehouse.
Yeah, we all get killed now by Alex.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Brad's going to look good in the GIMP suit, though. So
that's right.
Hey.
I love it.
It's been a few episodes, man.
Yeah.
It's my turn.
Your turn in the box.
The Salto-masochist.
Your turn in the crate. I mean, the box. I mean, yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, man. After talking about this for way too long, it lived up to all my expectations, and good night. No.
Well, I hope I wasn't too boring, and
no, it was fun.
No, you were great.
It was great.
We could do part 2 and talk about Trudeau and Trump and all the other things that go along, Canada. But we'll save that for another time.
We'll save that for our political podcast.
Yes,
we're gonna start that soon. It needs a name, so feel free in the comments.
I'll think about it.
Your name. Yeah, or if you come up with one, we'll split the. I'm sure what will be tens of dollars in ad revenue from that one.
Yeah, you guys are big time, man. Podcasters, you're like Joe Rogan and you guys, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's just say it's grown, and we're very happy for that. I mean, we would be nowhere without the people who listen to us, and keep pushing us to do this, either because they enjoy watching the shit show that it turns into, or they're really behind us to see us grow. But we've got
we're going through the stages. We're kind of in that we're a fungus stage. That's where we are right now.
Yeah, just starting to itch.
I was just hoping for herpes, where we just never really go away.
Yeah.
Oh, they're back.
Every 30 days, we got a new podcast.
We're like a
I'm
social media shanker. This is gonna be.
Oh, that's funny. No, I'm stoked to be on, guys, and I'm really happy for your success. And it's been real super fun.
Yeah,
thank you,
glad to
man.
have you on. Man.
Good talking to you, sir.
You well.
Always
Yes.
good to hear your voice, man. I'll
Thank
let
you,
you.
sir, very much.
Yes, thanks, Del.
No
I'll
problem.
let you get back to your Prescott evening.
Yeah, yep. Playing some checkers with the old lady.
Nice.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
say hi, please. Tell her we
I
said-
will. I will, and I'll send you some sneak peeks of the Street Freak.
Ooh,
Outstanding. I will put up pictures that have nothing to do with it
Okay.
to totally like veer people away.
This is Del's latest Street Freak project, and it's a guy in a zipper mask. Oh, wrong picture.
Leaning against dude, we could have that leaning up against like an electric car. This is going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Get creative. I know you can do it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you, sir. Thanks for joining. And hey, before we go, where can people find you online, sir?
So you can go to www.delmospeed.com, and everything is on the website except for my motors and my wheels. I know that's sad, but if you want any of that stuff, just shoot me an email to delmospeed@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at delmospeed, and I'll get you taken care of. I just haven't went mainstream with those, but certainly will build you one if you want one.
Awesome. And I hope people go there and buy lots of merch.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Cool shirts and hats and keychains and all that fun stuff.
There you go.
Cool,
Well,
dude.
hey, thank
again.
you. All right. Thanks for being part of it. And hey, thank all of you for listening. And thanks again to our sponsor for the show, Trailer Tug. You can visit them at trailertug.com. Listeners of the Round 6 podcast get 10% off their order when they call in or order online and use the code ROUND6. So, yeah, that said, thanks for joining us here on episode 57, and we will talk to you guys later.
See ya.
Peace.
Thanks again for listening, and be sure to keep up with us Gearheads over on our website at www.round6pod.com. If you'd like to, we invite you to follow along with us over on Facebook, Instagram, and be sure to check out all of our latest videos on youtube.com. Big thanks once again to our sponsor, Trailer Tug. Please visit them at trailertug.com and learn more about the world's strongest trailer dolly. Our listeners receive 10% off their order when they use the discount code ROUND6 at checkout or when calling their order in.